When I saw my husband's car parked at my daughter-in-law's house, I knew my life had just collapsed. And when I learned the truth about the child my son believed was his, the ground vanished beneath my feet. It was an ordinary Thursday when I decided to drop by Michael and Kate's unannounced. I was in a good mood after a doctor's visit, test results were fine, the sun was shining, and I realized I hadn't seen my granddaughter, Sophie, in a while. But as I turned onto their street, my heart stopped. There in their driveway was Richard's dark blue, the same car that was supposedly at the mechanic's for 3 days, the same one he'd used as an excuse to borrow my car for work, citing transmission issues. I parked across the street and just sat there staring at the car. Could I be mistaken? Maybe it was just similar, but the license plate was his, I knew it by heart. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, 37 years of marriage, and I'd never doubted Richard. He was dependable, predictable, a bit dull if I'm honest, but faithful, or so I thought. I got out of the car and slowly approached the house. The front door was hidden by a hedge, but the living room window was slightly open, and then I heard voices. "Emma's getting suspicious," Richard said, his voice tense. "What do you mean?" That was Kate, my sweet daughter-in-law, who just a month ago was baking cookies with me and complaining about exhaustion from late-night feedings. Yesterday she asked why I was so late from work, and the day before she noticed I changed my shirt. Kate laughed softly, intimately, a laugh I'd never heard from her when Michael was around. "Darling, you're too nervous, she doesn't suspect a thing. Emma trusts us both, especially me." "Darling," my face went pale, she called my husband darling. "Still, we need to be more careful," Richard continued. "Michael's starting to sense something too. Yesterday he asked why you've been so distant." "Michael doesn't suspect anything," Kate said, her voice taking on a steely edge. "He's too busy with work to notice anything beyond his projects, and besides, he's so happy with Sophie, I don't want to shatter his illusions." "Sophie, my granddaughter, what did she mean by illusions?" "Kate, are you sure he'll never find out the truth about the child?" Richard's voice dropped even lower, but in the stillness of the day, I heard every word. The world spun around me. What child? Sophie. "Rich, we've been over this. She was born on time, all the paperwork is in order. Michael was away on that business trip at just the right time. No one will suspect a thing." "But if someone does a DNA test?" "No one's going to do a DNA test. Why would they? Sophie looks like Michael, same eyes, same chin. Genetics are unpredictable." I grabbed the wall of the house to keep from collapsing. Sophie, my granddaughter, might not be my granddaughter at all. "Sometimes I feel awful," Richard admitted. "Michael loves her so much, calls her his princess." "Don't start that again," Kate snapped. "We made our choice, and if you're going to wallow in guilt every time, maybe we should." "No," Richard interrupted. "You know I'll never leave you, especially now that we have a daughter." "Daughter, their daughter." I couldn't listen anymore. Turning, I quietly ran back to my car, barely holding back sobs. My hands shook so badly I couldn't get the key into the ignition. Richard was cheating on me with Kate, who I loved like a daughter, who was married to my son, and the child, Sophie, might be Richard's daughter. I sat in the car for another half hour trying to pull myself together. My phone buzzed, texts from Richard. "Sweetheart, I'll be late from work tonight. Client issues, don't wait up for dinner." Lies, all lies. When I finally got home, the house felt foreign. I wandered through the rooms, looking at our family photos. There we were on our honeymoon, Michael's birth, his wedding to Kate, Sophie's birth. In the last photo, Richard was holding newborn Sophie, his eyes filled with such tenderness. Now I understood why. I didn't sleep that night. Richard came home late, smelling of unfamiliar perfume. He kissed my forehead and mumbled something about being tired. I lay beside him, listening as he drifted off, wondering how much more of his lies I'd uncover. In the morning, I started piecing things together. The signs were always there. Richard staying late at work, buying a new phone, claiming the old one broke, Kate avoiding family dinners, blaming exhaustion from the baby. Then I remembered a strange conversation with Michael 3 months ago. He seemed upset and said, "Mom, don't you think Kate's been acting distant, like she's hiding something important?" I'd reassured him, said it was postpartum depression, that it would pass. God, how wrong I was. The next day, I decided to act. I waited until Richard left for work and searched the house. In his study, in a desk drawer under a stack of insurance papers, I found a credit card I didn't know about. The statement was right there. My eyes widened in horror. Restaurants we'd never visited together. A jewelry store, $3,000 spent on Kate's birthday. A baby store, hundreds of dollars in purchases. He was spending our money on her and the child. But that wasn't all. In the farthest corner of the drawer was a second phone, an old iPhone in a black case. I turned it on and it didn't need a password. Messages, hundreds of messages between Richard and Kate. I miss you, when can we meet? Michael's out of town until Friday, come over. Sophie smiled at me today, she knows who her real dad is. Be careful with those messages, what if Emma finds the phone? Emma's too trusting, she'll never figure it out. I read, tears streaming down my cheeks. A year, they'd been deceiving Michael and me for a whole year. But the worst message was from Kate, sent 2 months ago. Sometimes I'm scared Michael will suspect something. Last night, he stared at Sophie for a long time and said she doesn't look much like him as a baby. Richard's reply made me gasp. Don't worry, I saw his baby pictures, he didn't look like me as a kid either. Genetics are unpredictable, the important thing is she's officially his daughter. Officially, did that mean the birth records were, or had they just lied about the dates? I kept scrolling and found photos. Richard and Kate at a restaurant, Richard holding newborn Sophie in the hospital, no Michael in sight, Kate in a stunning dress with jewelry I'd never seen. They were living a double life, and that life seemed happier than the one Richard shared with me. The last message was from the night before. Emma stopped by today, good thing we heard her car in time. What did she want? Said she missed Sophie, but I got the feeling she suspects something. She was looking at me too closely. Need to be more careful if she finds out. She won't, but maybe it's time to talk to Michael. About what? About divorce. I can't keep pretending I love him. My phone slipped from my hands. They were planning to destroy my son's life, coldly, calculatedly. I didn't know what to do, tell Michael, but I didn't have enough proof, just an overheard conversation and messages I'd found illegally. I needed more information. I called my friend, known each other for over 20 years, and she worked as a private investigator after retiring from the police. Emma, you sound awful, what's wrong? I need your help, but you have to promise not to tell anyone. We met at across town. I told her everything, the overheard conversation, the phone, the messages, listened silently, taking notes. Emma, are you sure you want to know the full truth? Because what you've told me is just the tip of the iceberg. What do you mean? If they've been living a double life for a year, there's likely financial fraud, possibly forged documents, maybe others are involved. She was right, this wasn't just infidelity, it was a conspiracy. Can you find out the truth about Sophie? Is Michael really her father? I can, but I'll need DNA samples from the child and Michael, and it has to be done discreetly. We made a plan, would track Richard and Kate's financial activity. I'd get the DNA samples. The next day, I visited Michael and Kate under the pretense of helping with the baby. Kate greeted me with a strained smile. Emma, so nice of you to stop by, you should called, I haven't up. The house was spotless, as always. No worries, dear, I just missed Sophie, can I hold her? Kate hesitated for a second but handed her to me. Sophie was beautiful, big dark eyes, chubby cheeks, soft chestnut hair. She looks so much like Michael did as a baby, I said, studying her face closely. Everyone says that, Kate replied, but I caught the tension in her voice. While we had tea, I discreetly collected a few of Sophie's hairs from her clothes. When Kate stepped into the kitchen, I quickly grabbed the baby's hairbrush. Kate, where's Michael? I wanted to talk to him. At work, you know, he's been working so much lately. Sometimes I feel lonely. She said it with such sadness I almost believed her, but I knew the truth, she wasn't lonely, she had Richard. Dear, if you need help with the baby, you can always call me. Thank you, Emma, you're so kind to me. Kind, I was kind to the woman sleeping with my husband and deceiving my son. That evening, when Michael came home, I asked him to help me carry boxes to the basement. While we worked, I discreetly collected some of his hair from his jacket. "Thanks for helping with Sophie today, Mom," he said. "Kate said you spent the whole day with her." "Yes, I love spending time with my granddaughter. She's so special." Michael smiled, that happy smile of a father who adored his child. "You know, Mom, sometimes I look at her and can't believe she's mine. She's so perfect." My heart ached. He loved that little girl so much, and she might not even be his. The next day I gave the samples to. She knew a lab that could process the test quickly and confidentially. "Results in 3 days," she said. "In the meantime, I checked their finances. Emma, sit down." I sat, bracing for the worst. "Richard opened a secret bank account a year and a half ago. Money been funneled from your joint account, small amounts to avoid suspicion. Total about $50,000. $50,000, our retirement savings." "That's not all. He's been paying rent for an apartment downtown, an expensive one." "An apartment, why?" I checked the address. "Emma, I think that's where they've been meeting, and Kate may have stayed there with the baby sometimes." So they had a love nest, a place where they played happy family while Michael and I were left in the dark. There's more. Richard's been buying baby clothes, toys, even furniture, all delivered to that apartment. He was setting up a nursery for Sophie. "Looks like it, Emma. I think they were planning to live together." Rage surged inside me. They weren't just cheating, they were building a future, at our expense. The 3 days waiting for the DNA results were the longest of my life. I tried to act normal around Richard, but every look, every word felt like a lie. Finally called. "Emma, the results are in, can you come over?" I got to her office in record time. She handed me a sealed envelope. "You ready?" I nodded and tore it open with shaking hands. Probability of paternity, 0%. Michael is not the biological father. I sank into a chair. Even though I'd suspected it, the official confirmation hit like a punch to the gut. "Emma, there's one more thing. I ran an additional analysis on the sample. Sophie has genetic markers suggesting her father is likely a man over 40 with a specific blood type. Richard's 53 and he has type AB, right?" "Yes." "Then there's a 95% chance Richard is Sophie's biological father. My husband was the father of my daughter-in-law's child, the child my son thought was his." I couldn't stay silent anymore. That evening I called Michael and asked him to come over, alone, without Kate. "Something wrong, Mom, you sound strange." "Just come, son, we need to talk." When Michael arrived, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the envelope in my hands. He looked exhausted from work. "Mom, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "Sit down, Michael. What I'm about to tell you will change your life." He sat across from me, his eyes filled with worry. "Michael, Kate's cheating on you." He blinked like he didn't understand. What are you talking about?" "She's cheating on you with your father." Michael leaned back in his chair as if I'd slapped him. "Mom, that's insane. Dad would never, and Kate know that's impossible." "Michael, I have proof." I told him everything, the overheard conversation, the messages on the phone, the secret bank account. Michael listened, growing paler by the second. "But the worst is yet to come," I said, handing him the envelope. "Sophie isn't your daughter." "What?" "I did a DNA test. Michael, she's your father's daughter." Michael took the envelope with trembling hands and read the results, then again and again. "No," he whispered, "this can't be true." "I'm so sorry, son, I'm so sorry." Michael stood and paced the kitchen, running his hands through his hair. "Sophie, my little girl, she's not even." He couldn't finish the sentence. Tears streamed down his face. "How long?" he asked finally. "Over a year, maybe longer." "God, Kate, she's been lying to my face this whole time, and Dad, how could he?" I stood and hugged my son. He was a grown man, but in that moment, he was my little boy again, hurting. What do I do, Mom? What you think is right, but first you need to confront them. Michael wiped his eyes. I want to hear it from them. I want them to look me in the eye and tell me the truth. Then we'll have a family dinner tomorrow night. I'll invite them both. The next day I texted Richard and Kate, family dinner tomorrow at 7, important, be there. I spent the day cooking roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, Michael's favorites. It might be the last time we gathered as a family. Richard arrived first. He kissed my cheek as usual. What's the occasion? He asked. You'll say. Kate came with Sophie. The baby was in a pink dress looking like an angel. Emma, thanks for the invite. Where, Michael? He'll be here soon. We sat in the living room, pretending everything was normal. Richard played with Sophie, and I noticed how tenderly he looked at her. Now I knew why. When Michael arrived, the air shifted. He looked grim and barely greeted Kate. What's wrong with you? She asked. We'll talk at dinner. We sat at the table. I served the food, poured wine. It looked like a normal family dinner, but I felt the tension. We ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Michael set down his fork. Kate, how long have you been sleeping with my father? Dead silence. Kate went pale. Richard froze, a piece of meat on his fork. What did you say? Kate whispered. You heard me. How long have you been cheating on me with Dad? Kate looked at Richard, then at me. Michael, what are you talking about? I would never. Stop lying to me, Michael exploded. Mom knows everything. She heard your conversation. She found your messages, Dad. Richard lowered his fork. His face turned ashen. Son, I can explain. Explain what? How you slept with your son's wife, how you spent our family's money on your mistress. Michael, please, not in front of the child, Kate pleaded. What child, your child or mine? Kate opened her mouth but couldn't speak. Michael pulled the DNA results from his pocket and threw them on the table. Sophie's not my daughter, is she? She's my father's. Kate looked at the papers and burst into tears. Michael, I can explain. Then explain how you could look me in the eye every day knowing the child I thought was mine is. Explain how you could sleep with me and then go to my father. Kate sobbed loudly. It didn't start like that, we didn't plan it. How did it start? Michael asked quietly. Kate looked to Richard for support, but he stared at his plate. It happened a year ago. You were on that 2-week business trip. I was lonely, depressed. Richard came to check on me. We had wine, talked, one thing led to another. And you got pregnant the first time? Michael asked sarcastically. No, it went on for months, and when I realized I was pregnant. You didn't know who the father was. Kate nodded, eyes down. But you decided it was easier to let me think I was. Michael, I love you. Don't you dare, Michael shouted, jumping up. Don't you dare say you love me. People don't do this to the ones they love. He turned to Richard. And you, Dad, what's your excuse? How could you betray your own son? Richard finally looked up. There was pain in his eyes, but no remorse. Michael, I didn't plan for this to happen, but I fell in love with Kate, truly in love. In love, Michael laughed bitterly. You destroyed my family for love. Your family was already broken, Richard snapped. You were never home, working 18 hours a day. Kate was lonely, miserable. So it's my fault, Michael couldn't believe what he was hearing. I'm not saying it's your fault, but you didn't see her struggling. I did, and I was there. There, in my bed with my wife. Kate stood suddenly, clutching Sophie. Enough, Michael, you're scaring the baby. That baby isn't mine, Michael shouted, and you're not my wife anymore. He turned to me. Mom, I can't stay here. Michael, wait, Kate tried. For what? More lies. He headed for the door but stopped and turned back. You know what's worst? I truly loved that little girl. I dreamed of teaching her to ride a bike, scaring off her boyfriends, walking her down the aisle, and now I can't even look at her. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "She's not to blame," Kate said softly. "No, she's not, but she's not my daughter." Michael left, slamming the door. Kate sobbed harder. "Emma, tell him I never meant to hurt him." I looked at her coldly. "Kate, get out of my house." "What?" "Take your child and leave, and don't ever come back." "Emma, please, I can fix this." "No, you can't. You destroyed my son's life. I'll never forgive you." Kate gathered Sophie's things and left, sobbing. Only Richard remained. We sat in silence across from each other. "Emma," he began. 37 years, I cut him off. 37 years of marriage, for what? For a girl young enough to be your daughter. It's not just about age. Then what? Explain it to me, Richard. Help me understand how my husband became a stranger. Richard sighed. I don't know when it started. Maybe when you stopped noticing me. Maybe when I realized I was getting old and life was passing me by. So you decided to sleep with our son's wife. Kate made me feel young, knighted. She admired me. And I did. You took me for granted, like part of the furniture. I shook my head. You know what's worst? If you cheated with some random woman, I might forgiven you. People make mistakes, but you chose our son's wife. You ruined his life. I didn't mean to. You did, or you would stopped after the first time, but you kept going, month after month, and even had a child. Richard bowed his head. What happens now? Now you pack your things and leave. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Emma, isn't there a chance for us? I stood up. Richard, if you'd killed me, we'd have a better chance of reconciling, because you can only kill someone once, but you've been killing me every day for a year. He packed and left that night. The next weeks were a blur. Michael moved in with me temporarily. He barely spoke, ate little, couldn't sleep. I found him a good therapist. Kate tried calling, texting, but Michael didn't respond. Once, she showed up with Sophie, but he slipped out the back door. Emma, please talk to him, she begged. I need to explain. Kate, you've explained enough. I love him. If you loved him, you wouldn't have slept with his father. She left, crying. Richard tried reaching out to Michael too, but no luck. A month later, I got a strange call. It was Kate, but her voice was different, tired, desperate. Emma, I need help. Kate, I don't think. Richard left me. I went silent. What did you say? He said it was a mistake, that he never truly loved me, that I'm too young and naive for him. I almost laughed at the irony. And what do you want me to do? Talk to Michael, tell him I'll do anything to fix our family. Kate, there is no family anymore. But Sophie. Sophie's not his daughter, you admitted that yourself. But he could love her. Kate, stop. Michael's filed for divorce. The house is for sale. He's starting over. Kate sobbed into the phone. I've lost everything. Yes, you have, and that was your choice. I hung up. A month later, I learned Kate had moved to her parents in another state. Richard rented a small apartment on the edge of town. He tried to reconcile with me, but I was done. The divorce was quick. I got the house and half our savings. Richard didn't fight, maybe out of guilt. Michael slowly started to heal. Therapy helped him process the betrayal and the loss of a child he thought was his. You know, Mom, he said one evening as we sat on the porch, the strangest thing is I still miss Sophie, even knowing she's not mine. Love doesn't vanish overnight, son. But she'll never know what kind of father I could been. Another child will, someday. He smiled for the first time in weeks. A year later, Michael met a wonderful woman, Sarah, a teacher. She was kind, honest, and most importantly, she made him laugh again. Richard tried to reconnect with Michael, but Michael wasn't ready. Maybe he never would be. As for me, I discovered life after 50 doesn't end. I enrolled in painting classes, traveled with friends, even started dating a kind widower named Thomas. One day at the grocery store, I saw Kate. She looked older, worn. Sophie, now a toddler, sat in the cart. Our eyes met. Kate opened her mouth to speak, but I shook my head and walked past. Some wounds are too deep to forgive. That evening, Michael called. Mom, Sarah said yes to marrying me. Oh, son, that's wonderful. And guess what? She wants kids, lots of kids. I smiled through tears of joy. Then I'll be a very busy grandma. The best grandma in the world. When I hung up, I looked at the photo on the mantel, an old family picture, all of us smiling. Richard, me, Michael, Kate, and little Sophie. That family was gone, but a new one was beginning, this time built on truth, not lies. I put the photo in a drawer. The past belongs in the past. Some betrayals can't be forgiven, but you can learn to move on and even find happiness. 6 months later, I danced at Michael and Sarah's wedding. Richard wasn't invited. Michael said he wasn't ready to see his father at such a milestone. In his speech, Michael said, Mom taught me that family isn't just blood, it's the people who stay with you in the darkest moments, the ones who tell the truth even when it hurts. Mom, thank you for saving me from a life built on lies. Everyone clapped, but I saw only his face, happy, healthy, full of hope. A year later, Sarah gave birth to their first child, a boy named. When I held him for the first time, I knew this was true happiness, a grandson born of love and truth. Sometimes life gives you a second chance, but only if you're brave enough to tear down the lies and build something new from the ruins. The story didn't end the way I'd planned, but it ended right, and that's what matters most.